Okay, now I'll make this a bit bigger. Now what's that size like? Is that good? That's excellent. Okay, and I'll focus. Alright, so we hadn't made note here for in the room the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo, and this gets repeated in the poem. We hear it again, and it creates this extra break. So we've had this fragmentary break here of oh, do not ask, what is it, let us go and make our visit. And then it's almost like, if you think this is a good place to, like in your study time, have another listen to the way Jeremy Irons reads this poem or recites this poem, and the way that he expresses this refrain, this in the room the women come and go, talking of Michelangelo, and you can hear almost a sense of contempt in his voice as he says it. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be thought of in that way. It's like one of the readings that you can have, that he could be talking, this flaneur, Prufrock, talking with contempt about Michelangelo through the jealousy that he feels, or it could be that he's in awe and that he perhaps is thinking of the high class of the women and the education that they have, and perhaps he doesn't feel worthy. It could be taken either way. We're going to make the annotation here of symbol of Prufrock's desired persona. We also have the idea of high art. And it could be said that here there's a sense of superficiality. So if the women are coming and going, talking of Michelangelo, it could be that they're superficial, they're talking about things of high art because they feel that that is going to be to make them look better. But either way you take it, there is that negativity there, whether it is that he doesn't feel worthy enough, or if it is that he feels that they're being superficial and not involving him. Because if the women come and go, we get the sense that they don't notice him at all. And so it, any way that you take it, I think it amounts to this sense of not being worthy. And of course, with both of these two-line sections, we've got the rhyme. So, is it and visit rhyme. And go Michelangelo rhyme as well. So he keeps bringing in this lyrical quality and then breaking it and then establishing it. T.S. Eliot himself, the man, absolutely loved cats. That was his animal. He always owned cats. I think I mentioned before that the musical, the Andrew Lloyd Webber musical Cats, is based off the writings of T.S. Eliot. He wrote a book about cats, something that was not depressing, that was kind of quite playful. He uses cat imagery quite a bit in his poetry, and if you think about it, think about the movement of a cat. It really does lend itself to metaphorically describing different things. The way that cats... Who's got a cat? Put your hand up if you have a cat at home. Okay, I'm a dog person, but I did have a cat growing up. Think about the fact that cats can be elusive, they can be ambiguous, they can be loving, they can be assholes, they can be... they've got this sense of independence that sometimes I think dogs are just so desperate for your attention and love me, love me, love me, and cats feel far more confident than that. And they also have this ability to be quite sneaky and go places that other animals especially, you know, dogs or whatever don't have access to because they can jump and they can climb. There's also the, you know, that old saying of a cat has 9 lives, the indestructibility of a cat that is sometimes attributed to them. So I was looking, when I was finding the images for the booklet, I looked and looked to try and find, maybe I thought an artist had done a representation of the way the cat is used in Prufrock. This is not from that. I couldn't really find anything, but this kind of was the best that I could find, in the sense that there's the idea that a cat can be, like, it can make itself quite long and slender, and it can go around things like rubbing its back against things and being quite flexible, because the way a cat is used here is to describe the fog in London, and he describes yellow fog. So have a listen to this. The yellow fog that rubs its back upon the window panes, the yellow smoke that rubs its muzzle on the window panes, licked its tongue into the corners of the evening, lingered upon the pools that stand in drains, let fall upon its back the soot that falls from chimneys, slipped by the terrace, made a sudden leap, and seeing that it was a soft October night, curled once about the house and fell asleep. So we've got here, the technique is zoomorphism, and so where we have personification, where you make something that's not human have human qualities. When you give a non-living thing animal qualities, it's called zoomorphism. So we're going to write that, let's write it just, let's write it at the top here, okay? So we're going to, alright, put it here. So this cat metaphor, so it's zoomorphism, it's also cat metaphor, and those things that I was just kind of talking about with the way the cat is, we can add to that the way that a cat is also quite predatory, and there's this stealth that a cat has, you know, what they're like when they're stalking something that they want to catch, stalking a mouse or a bird. They are also nocturnal, and so much of Eliot's poetry, well, certainly we have the in Preludes. This is so the next poem, Preludes, is set in the different times of day. It begins with the evening, but then Rhapsody on a Windy Night, which is the one we come to next, is a flaneur who's walking about the streets at night. And so that's another reason why cat metaphors and the such work so well for Eliot, because he's often talking about the streets at night and wandering around at night time. So we're going to add to cat metaphor here. We're going to write predatory, stealth, nocturnal, curious, and I'm also going to put playful, because in a poem that's, you know, quite negative and depressing, I think there is a sense of playfulness in this imagery that brings a bit of, it lightens the poem a little bit. We are going to add here that it also helps to create invasive imagery. Now, because Now, I said a moment ago, cats can kind of go places that other animals can't go just because of the way that they can maneuver themselves. If you're describing fog and smoke, fog becomes all-encompassing. It kind of goes everywhere as it settles. And in this sense, we've got yellow fog and yellow smoke, which doesn't give us this, it's not really a positive image. I think if you have a white fog, there's something that's quite beautiful about that, but if the fog is yellow, it reminds us of pollution, of aging, the yellowing of the skin. There's also, you know, it could also refer to the gases that were used in the war. Remember, this is written just, you know, at the time that war was occurring, World War I. So we are going to circle yellow here, and we're going to write actually if we go the yellow, and we have an afra here, girls, yellow imagery of aging and of pollution. And this then links with this idea of soot. It extends that pollution imagery. So if we just do this, and what we've got here, because I said that, you know, a cat has got this playful, positive sense, and along with the urban pollution, which is, you know, disgusting, and then the playful cat, there's this sense of dissonance, like they don't really work together, and that mirrors the confusion of our flaneur within his own mind, and also that of the modernists who are trying to find a sense of, I guess, satisfaction in this new modern world. We're going to put this on the next page at the end of this little bit. And so if we go over, because here I think is where the playfulness really comes in, where we've got slipped by the terrace, made a sudden leap, and seeing that it was a soft October night, curled once about the house and fell asleep. And the description of the October night as soft suddenly also brings in that sense of positivity, I guess, or at least a lightening of that negative mood. So next to that we shall write dissonance. The urban pollution, Girls, please. Dissonance, urban pollution and playful cat imagery equals, well, that mirrors Prufrock's and modernists' confusion. Yeah, so the crossover on the page there, this is all one stanza. So yellow fog is this. Yes. So the annotation is connected to what you've written here about cat metaphor. It's the culmination of that. So what do we have? We end up with the urban pollution along with, described through a playful cat metaphor. It's dissonant, isn't it? I mean, if he, if you think about it, he could have used a rat. A rat is such a clear link between pollution and something that's dirty and disgusting, but he hasn't. He's used a cat. And we know that he loved cats, so it was definitely intended to be a very kind of positive image there. Okay, now, let's have a look at this next stanza. And as I read it, think about the fact that I keep referring to the lyrical sound of the words as I say them. There's real beauty in the words as they're put together. And indeed there will be time for the yellow smoke that slides along the street, rubbing its back upon the window panes. There will be time to prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet. There will be time to murder and create, and time for all the works and days of hands that lift and drop a question on your plate. Time for you and time for me, and time yet for 100 indecisions and for 100 visions and revisions before the taking of a toast and tea. I love the sound of these two lines, 100 indecisions and for 100 visions and revisions. It's quite, I think it's quite nice to say. If we have a look here, to prepare a face for the faces that you meet, that reminds me so much of Shakespeare and the way that he is, always exploring the notion of human duality and appearance versus reality and who we can really trust, but also the way we have to put a mask on according to the situations that we're in. And so this to prepare a face to meet the faces that you meet, I think really resonates. We have this lyrical repetition of there will be time. We see in Mrs. Dalloway that really the obsession with time and the relentlessness of time, and there's this contradiction here because he keeps on saying in a way that I think is supposed to comfort himself, there'll be time, but the modernists knew that time was relentless and it was fleeting and you couldn't hold it back, and that indeed their time will run out. So we're going to underline there will be time, and down here we've got it twice more. There will be time, there will be time. There will be time. And the word time continues to be repeated. So we've got the underlining of that clause there, and now we're just going to circle the word time because of its repetition throughout. So we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, if I haven't missed any, 8 times that time is repeated in this stanza. I'm going to call this the there will be time, lyrical repetition. We also have some sibilance in the opening for the yellow smoke that slides along the street. And of course, sibilance is that use of S alliteratively that causes a sense of something that is a bit sinister here. And the way that we've got, okay, so it's this continuation of the cat metaphor, rubbing its back upon the window panes, and yellow smoke that slides along the street, rubbing its back upon the window panes. So it's that continuation of that zoomorphism, and the repetition that I've said, this lyrical repetition. We get that sense of he's trying to reassure himself. Now, lyrical, when you hear the word lyrical, it's a nice sound. If something is lyrical, it sounds pleasant, it sounds nice. And in the sense that when something sounds nice, you can have a sense of reassurance. If you think about lullabies or someone going, it'll be okay, that repetition of something that's designed to comfort. And so this lyrical repetition of there will be time, there will be time, there will be time, is this attempt that he has to comfort himself and reassure himself and convince himself that he will be able to achieve what he wants to, even with the hesitation and procrastination, even though I think he knows that that's not actually going to happen. So let's write lyrical repetition, trying to comfort and convince himself. Now we have a biblical allusion here as well. Anyone want to have a shot at what the biblical allusion is with there will be time? Yes, it is. I am impressed. Ecclesiastes, and the quote is, a time to be born, a time to die. And so that's something that's quoted in a few literary things. It's in Brave New World. Not Brave New World. Blade Runner, isn't it? Did you ever teach Blade Runner back in the day?
Yes,
and and he talks about a time to be born and a time to die. And often in funerals and things like that, there's that reassuring religious message of, there's a time for everything, a time to be born, a time to die, and when it's your time. And so that is also alluded to here. So because we're still on, actually I'll make it in the same colour for myself because we're still on this same analysis here of there will be time, and I'm going to put it just here. Okay, so we've got biblical allusion. time to be born, a time to die. And in a world where Eliot felt a question, a significant questioning of religion and a sense of spiritual decay, if there's a complete loss of spirituality and a complete loss of religion, he felt that there was then that loss of the reassurance of the natural way of things, and that we can find meaning in the fact that there will be time. And that comfort that religion brings. Molly. Who's Molly? Molly Gallup? Is Molly in here? Oh, it's not. This isn't. Who's Molly Gallup? What?
I think in year 11.
Year 11?
There
Was a class that was supposed to be in here, and then they cancelled, and so they're not in here. So, whatever their original classroom was, if you just let the people at the office know.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. And that kind of lends itself here to this idea of comfort too, the comfort of religion. So I'm actually going to write here. Whoop, sorry, you can't see that. There's something comforting in the thought that you don't need to make a decision, that when the time comes, there's nothing you can do about it either way, and that acceptance that religion can offer for people, and certainly for Eliot himself. Now, we are just going to add now about the yellow fog. So this also links in with the yellow fog from the previous stanza, but we're going to write it for this stanza here, and that is the yellow fog relating to the war that I kind of briefly mentioned a moment ago. And so sulfur gas and the burning, mustard gas. So mustard gas used in war was said to have like that yellowy hue to it. There's also a particular thing attributed to yellow. So if red equals, say, love and passion, blue, if it equals depression, who knows what yellow represents? Green, jealousy, yellow. Did anyone say cowardice? I'm not sure if I heard that over there. So, it's cowardice, and there's an old saying, people used to call someone yellow-bellied, and it meant that they were a coward. And so remember I said that Eliot himself couldn't go to war because of his physical medical concerns, and so he would have been paranoid that everyone thought he was a coward. So those connotations are there as well. The place that we're going to put this, actually if you put it up the top here, because it relates to the previous stanza and this one as well, and it's the yellow fog and smoke. The burning coal plus yellow symbolism of cowardice. I'll have to show you, I'll have to find it and show it to you. There are copies in a museum, obviously, of the original poetry, the original that Eliot did of Prufrock. and all of the editing and the feedback that was given to him by Ezra Pound, his friend and fellow modernist poet. And the amount of back and forth and editing that occurred for this poem really demonstrates that every single word is purposefully chosen and packed with meaning. Nothing is an accident. It kind of was quite a long time of refining and editing and suggestions. Now, this next bit, my poor old notes, I'm going to have to put these in a museum, I think. Okay, now we've got in this bit here that I really, really like. To prepare a face for the faces that you meet. There will be time to murder and create. All right, murder and create, those are two opposite things, aren't they? So we've only got 4 minutes. I'm going to just do this really quickly with you. So, murder and create, we've got juxtaposition. Now I'm going to put the note for murder and create over here, okay? Because there's a couple of things we're going to write about it. And we are saying it is a juxtaposition. You can also call this a paradox that relates to the self, okay? So you're going to write self-referential That's how you spell referential. Looks wrong. I think that's right. Self-referential image. The idea that he himself, when he's beating himself up internally and really down on himself, he's that sense of murdering himself, of murdering his own identity and sense of confidence, but then trying to build it up again, so creating it again. And so he's aware of this internal paradox that he's battling within himself, and that's what's causing his hesitation, his procrastination, because as soon as he builds himself up, he brings himself back down again. And so the strength of your own psyche is something that he's really representing here. The strength of one's own psyche. Murder is such a strong word. Murder and create. It's not tear down and rebuild. Murder and create. It's like those two, absolute opposing ends. And that's probably all that we're going to have time for. We probably need to pack up now, don't we? Does it go? What time does the bell go? What time? Oh, we've got 10 minutes.
12 if you're going to be proper.
Okay. I thought it went really quickly. Thank you. What was I thinking of? Maybe I did. Who knows? Sorry, do you need that? Juxtaposition, paradox, self-referential image, the strength of one's own psyche.
Written in my neatest handwriting.
Now, there's also been another interpretation of this as, so some people look at this poem as also referring to the process of creating literature and creating poetry. And so there's a saying that, I don't know how long the saying's been around for, that when you write something, whether you write a short story or a novel or a poem, and then you give it to someone for feedback, and you think you've got this beautiful thing that you've written, and they just tear it down and tell you, this is, the look I'm getting from you, Phoebe, is beautiful, I love it. The tearing down of what you think is good, and then suddenly you think, I thought I was done, and now I've got all this work to do. And so the murder and create as being referring to that process of editing and drafting and feedback and going back. And the term that is the one I was about to mention is murder your babies. And so it's this idea that you've got this baby, this thing that you've created that you're so proud of, and then you get someone to critique it and they murder it, and it feels awful, and then you have to pick yourself up and go in and make the changes and make it better and recreate. So we're going to add here the artistic process of selection. I'll go draft and edit. And I'll put the writing process. It makes it a bit clearer, I think. The writing process. And something can mean all the different things at the same time. And so whilst these are two kind of different ideas, both could be correct simultaneously. He could be speaking of both. And especially given that T.S. Eliot himself was obviously a poet and an artist, and full of all of these contradictory self-doubts. So, let's have a look at, we've got, and time for all the works and days of hands. So hands is an example of the word that I love and hate to say. Who knows what it is? It's got the nectarchy in it. It's the nectarchy. So this referring to a part to refer to the whole. So let's just write synecdoche here. Now, there is a allusion here. I probably won't write it down, but there's an 800 verse didactic ancient Greek poem that never mentions whole people, just body parts. And so Eliot here is using that idea within this poem. That lift and drop a question on your plate. Time for you and time for me, and time yet for 100 indecisions and for 100 visions and revisions. This is a beautiful couplet. It's really quite, that's the one that I was saying I quite like saying. I think it's quite lyrical. And we have here, we go like this for our couplet, and we're going to rhyming couplet. So he uses these rhyming couplets quite a bit. And we said on our first page over here, early on, we said that the rhyming couplet, I know that we wrote it. I'm sure that we wrote it.
Shakespeare's sonnet allusion.
Yes. We wrote Shakespeare's sonnet allusion. Whenever that we have rhyming couplet, go back to that annotation on the first page of the reference, the allusion there to the love poetry of Shakespeare and that beauty of those earlier poems. Now, in this sense, that beauty and that love is subverted into a sense of self-conscious revising. So, rhyming couplet, the beauty and love of the allusion to past love poetry is subverted to suggest self-conscious revising that is never ending. The speed of the way in which this is read can be sped up because of the pace of it, and time yet for 100 indecisions and for 100 visions and revisions. And so we get this sense that those numbers, that 100, is just indicative of the fact that it's never ending, that ongoing self-conscious revising. And then, before the taking of a toast and tea, this is an example of metonym. Now, you haven't written down metonym yet, have you? I don't think so. So it's similar to synecdoche, but a metonym is where a word or expression is used as a substitute for something else that it's closely associated with. So let's just write that very quickly now. Sometimes it was done to be a little bit more polite. So, you know, back in the day when it was, you know, a bit embarrassing to say, I'm going to go to the toilet, women used to say, I'm going to go and powder my nose. And that was a metonym for, I'm going to go and use the toilet to do a wee. But powdering my nose sounds far more feminine and polite, so that's an example of metonym. And the example that we have in our poem, which we'll write next time because we're going to run out of time, is that taking of a toast and tea. It's a metonym for an everyday social convention, but we'll write that next lesson.